I concur with my S&D colleague that we need more guarantees for transparency and accountability of the whole programs. We think if you look at the European Court of Auditors' opinion, that they are quite critical on the fact that the evaluation of the Commission really lacks crucial information, like how the goals exactly have been reached and to what extent the additionality criteria, for instance, has been met. And we think we should do better than that in order to ensure that this money, this less money, goes to the right objectives. And that also includes that we need to be aware that the evaluation of the European Court of Auditors also points at the fact that for the previous program, it was already difficult for the EU delegations to have sufficient capacity and to work with the programs. Now we see a restructuring of DG INTPA, also externally. So we must make sure that this doesn't go at the cost of an effective and efficient application of this funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you well. And from the left, is there anyone wishing? No, I don't see. ESN? No, it's not the case. Then I give the floor to the representative of the European Commission, Mr. Antoine Cuero-Musso from DG INTPA.
3 minutes.
3 minutes only. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, 2 points. One is to express we are grateful for your support to the articles of this proposal and its objectives. And the second point is to express that we are aligned on the policy dimension that is beyond these very technical changes that we are proposing. And the messages that in your recitals, the policy message that in your recitals you are pushing forward. There are two, I think, important policy dimensions. One is the fact that by doing these very technical optimization and efficiency changes, we can make available a sizable amount of resources that in the current context, budgetary or geopolitical, we think could be much welcome. And to reassure also the Parliament as a branch of the budgetary authority that these resources made available will be allocated following our standard budgetary rules and the role of the Parliament and, of course, the Budget Committee in that sense. The second, I think, important or useful policy message also is that it is also a timely proposal in the sense that it allows us to have a debate about these instruments, the budgetary guarantees in NDCI, but also in the forthcoming Global Europe. It is a relatively new tool, instrument in our financial toolbox, but it's here to stay, and I think it's not the only tool, but it brings a lot of leverage in order to achieve investments. And I would say to achieve investment or to support investment in the European way of investing, which is the way where we put first the interest of our partner country in its development, its poverty reduction, and also meeting common goods. And it's also respecting ESG standards in our investments. So that's why we think that it's timely also because today in your agenda this morning you have also an item to discuss the impact of the FSD+ guarantees, these budgetary guarantees. So for all these reasons, grateful and supportive of the policy messages that you push forward in your recitals. Thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you very much. Less than 3 minutes. And this concluded our interventions. I want to congratulate co-rapporteurs. Just to remind you that the deadline for amendments for this file is Tuesday, 30th of September at 5 p.m. The vote in our committees is foreseen for 5th of November, and it includes the vote on the mandate to enter into the trilogue negotiations. Thank you very much. And this concludes this common point of our agenda, and we will swiftly move to next point where we will be.
Charles wants to say something.
It was not previewed, but of course, Charles, you can take.
D'habitude, les co-rapporteurs répondent aux recommandations faites par. Comment? Oui. Donc, je voulais simplement vous dire, il y a eu la moitié des groupes politiques représentés au sein de notre commission n'ont pas réagi à notre rapport. Alors, il y a deux hypothèses. Ou bien David et moi, nous vous avons présenté un rapport absolument nul, auquel cas on pourrait les comprendre, ou bien, deuxième hypothèse, Skindimo consent, malgré notre modestie légendaire, nous tablons sur la deuxième hypothèse. Et deuxièmement, pour répondre à nos collègues qui ont réagi à notre rapport, je voudrais les rassurer que nous sommes tout à fait sur la même longueur d'onde. Nous allons tout faire pour que le contrôle s'améliore. C'est d'ailleurs l'un des points forts de notre recommandation. Et nous ferons en sorte que les critères d'efficience des moyens engagés, les critères d'efficacité pour des politiques orientées sur le résultat, ainsi que la pertinence, qui est l'un des points principaux, fassent l'objet d'une évaluation systématique. Et là, le Parlement a son rôle à jouer. Nous allons le jouer pleinement. Merci aussi à la Commission qui a été tout à fait disponible pour nous aider dans l'analyse de ce document.
Excellente intervention, comme toujours. Merci beaucoup, Charles. Merci.
J'exagère un peu. Hein.
David, to be fair, I need to give the floor to David, too, our co-rapporteur. The floor is yours.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much. And with this, we move to our next meeting. 1 minute. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, David. Where should I goes very similar.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask you to be seated and to now end your conversations. And if you have urgent things to discuss, you can do this outside. So, I would like to welcome you all to this joint meeting of the AFET-DEVE and BUDG committees. To start our meeting, we need to formally adopt our short agenda. Item number 2 is the exchange of views of the use of EU guarantees and the European Funds for Sustainable Development, EFSD and EFSD Plus, with the European Court of Auditors and experts. Our exchange of views today is on EU guarantees in external action. More specifically, we will have an exchange of views with the European Court of Auditors and other experts, as just mentioned. I will leave it to our DEVE Vice Chair, Robert Biedron, to introduce the speakers in more detail. Let me just simply say welcome to the European Parliament on this Wednesday morning. The title of today's exchange may not be the most politically appealing. However, behind a rather technocratic title lies an important discussion which has relevance for some of our most strategic external action initiatives today, many of which are often undertaken with member states in the spirit of Team Europe. This includes especially, of course, Global Gateway, which heavily relies on member states and private resources to join the efforts. In order to have the right incentives for the private sector, budgetary guarantees and related financial tools are obviously key. Therefore, I very much look forward to suggestions by the experts as to what we can do better going forward in the next MFF. Without any further ado, I hand over to Robert Biedron for to Janusz Lewandowski for his introductory comments. Please, Janusz.
Good morning. Thank you. This is not for the first time, and for sure not for the last time, our joint meeting, a brainstorm of 3 committees on this time on the financial tools promoting sustainable investments in partner countries. This is looking like a very nice cooperation in this area. While internally oriented headings of our budget depend still on traditional financing, that is grants and loans. Who remembers programs of Jessica and Jeremy, marginally employed in cohesion also in Poland? In the area of in external action, we really grow in financial instruments, of course, under the guarantee of our budget. Now we have limits of guarantee in present MFF up to 54 billion euro. Next proposal is to extend to 95 billion euro. Of course, this is a clear chance to mobilize private capital, to multiply investment, but this is also at the risk of so-called contingent liabilities, as it was in case yesterday discussing with David assistance to Ukraine. Here is the risk, but of course we should learn from the past experience to modify, we need our scrutiny, and with this I hand over to my friend Robert.
Thank you very much, Janusz, and thank you both of you for co-organizing this meeting with our committee. As it was said, the idea of today's exchange of views is as to take a closer look at how the European Fund for Sustainable Development and its successor EFSD Plus work, and whether it's starting to deliver the impact and results that were hoped for when they were introduced, namely to what extent it can leverage or maximize the development impact of grants and concessional loans, which are more traditional modalities, as we know. That question seems particularly relevant since the EFSD, which was launched in 2017, as we remember, had not nearly reached cruising speed when EFSD Plus was proposed in 2018 within the NDICI Global European Regulation, but which was proposed and then implemented with a much wider financial and geographic scale and scope. I don't want to take the time away from our excellent experts, who I want to welcome also in the name of our committee, and I would rather propose a couple of questions myself after their presentations. I invite in different capacities, or our guests have looked into the use of budgetary guarantees, which are used to hopefully incite additional sustainable investments in developing countries to trigger economic development and create jobs. So I'm sure we will have an interesting mix of angles and perspective, and hopefully we will understand better the potential and challenges and shortcomings as well, which can fit into our work as legislators for the new Global Europe instrument. Let me therefore welcome our excellent speakers from European Court of Auditors, Beatrice Lesiewicz, Principal Manager, welcome very much, and Mr. Yuri Lang, the Head of Task, welcome, who will present the Court's main finding expressed in its opinion accompanying the Commission evaluation of the External Action Guarantee, which was already published last year. Welcome once again. After the presentation, we will hear the auditors of the deep dive study on EFSD and ILLI EFSD Plus deployment practices, which DG INTA of the European Commission has requested from external consultants, namely Ms. Maite Kolb and Yves Spakeart, Managing Director of Energy Capital. The third presentation will be by Ms. Michela Gavas, who is over there, welcome, from the Center for Global Development, who has undertaken and published substantial research on the EFSD. For each presentation, we foresee 7 minutes speaking time, which some of our guests will share. Finally, let me also welcome the head of the DG INPA External Action Guarantees Unit, who can draw on 8 years of work experience related to EFSD. Where is our guest sitting? Somewhere there. Over there, hiding. Welcome. Ms. Lesiewicz and Ms. Yuri Lang, you have the floor for 7 minutes to present the opinion of the European Court of Auditors. The floor is for you for 7 minutes to share. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, dear Mr. Chair, dear Mr. Vice Chairs, dear members of the 3 committees. Thank you very much for having invited us to present the results of our work, and we are very pleased to be here. The European Court of Auditors typically prepares opinions on a legislative proposal presented by...
I'm sorry, Ms. Lesiewicz, I need to interrupt you. We hardly hear you, so you speak closer to microphone. Our colleagues from technical assistance will put the volume of the speakers up.
Okay, can you hear me better now? Okay, fine. As I said, thank you for having invited us to present the results of our work, and we are pleased to be here. The European Court of Auditors typically prepares opinions on a legislative proposal presented by the Commission and upon the request by the European Parliament or the Council. However, in the present case, the situation was different. The NDICI regulation requires the Commission to evaluate the External Action Guarantee every 3 years, and it also requires the ECA to provide an opinion to accompany the Commission evaluation. Therefore, our opinion assessed the completeness and quality of the Commission evaluation. However, we did not carry out an audit of the External Action Guarantee as such, nor did we reperform the Commission's evaluation. The Commission prepared an evaluation with a wide scope covering several external financing instruments, which also included an assessment of the External Action Guarantee. The Commission published its evaluation in May 2024, and this marked the starting point for our work. We published our opinion in December 2024. Since the publication of our opinion in July this year, the Commission has presented the legislative proposal for establishing the Global Europe Instrument for the next MFF. Likewise, this proposal also requires the ECA to prepare an opinion. Our work on this legislative proposal has just started, and therefore today we will not be able to comment on the Commission proposal. However, we will be glad to report to you once the work on this opinion has been completed or is completed. And now, as we only have 7 minutes, I will hand over to Jiri Lang. He was the head of task for this opinion, and he will report on the work we carried out and the suggestions we made in our opinion. Please, Jiri.
Thank you, Beatrix. Thank you for the floor. Can I just ask you to move 2 slides ahead, please, with our presentation? One more, please. Thank you again.
Speak closer to the mic. We can't hear you.
The current slide shows the External Action Guarantee in a nutshell. With this guarantee instrument, the EU can cover investments and financing operations in partner countries up to a theoretical maximum of 53.5 billion euros. The largest part of the External Action Guarantee covers activities under the European Fund for Sustainable Development Plus for up to 39 billion euros. The EFSD Plus, as you may know, is the main tool behind the Global Gateway initiative and is expected to mobilize additional resources, public and private investments to help partner countries to achieve sustainable development goals. The remaining part of the External Action Guarantee, for about 11.9 billion, is dedicated to loans to third countries. Now, the External Action Guarantee relies on provisions, which means funds or assets that are progressively set aside within the Common Provisioning Fund. Next slide, please. What did we find? Our opinion concluded that the Commission evaluation provides useful observations and points out challenges in implementing the External Action Guarantee. However, at the same time, the Commission evaluation remains incomplete, as it didn't sufficiently cover the criteria explicitly required by the NDICI regulation. When it comes to the contribution to the overall objectives, the evaluation doesn't say whether and to which extent the EFSD Plus has been helpful in reaching the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it helped in mitigating the effects of climate change, nor whether it contributed to addressing root causes of migration. In a similar manner, the evaluation lacks information on achieved results, and this can be partly explained by the fact that the EFSD Plus was at an early stage of implementation when the evaluation was carried out. However, the evaluation didn't make full use of all information that was publicly available. When it comes to additionality, for instance, the evaluation contains little information on the EFSD Plus capacity to mobilize additional investments. Moreover, the evaluation didn't assess the External Actions Guarantee maximum capacity as required by the NDICI regulation. It doesn't say whether the overall capacity, which currently stands at around 51 billion euros, is suitable to achieve the intended objectives, nor whether the levels of provisioning are adequate. In addition, certain findings that were presented in the external study that served as the basis of the Commission evaluation were not sufficiently reflected in the final version of the Commission evaluation. And in addition, beyond our review of the evaluation itself, we found that the Commission did not publicly report on all aspects required by the NDICI regulation. Next slide. Based on our analysis, we made the following 6 suggestions. Now, these are not audit recommendations, but rather non-binding suggestions that we presented to the Commission's consideration. First, as a novel instrument involving significant amount of funding, the External Action Guarantee would merit its own dedicated evaluation in 2027 when the next evaluation is due. Secondly, for the evaluation to be prepared in 2027, it would be preferable if the Commission could submit the final evaluation to the European Court of Auditors sufficiently in advance so that both documents, the Commission evaluation and our opinion, can be published at the same time. Back in December